Okay, so imagine there was free agency for soft drinks. How much do you think Canada Dry would take on the open market? Like, what would the contract be?
Canada Canada Dry is definitely like a above average free agent. It's not like your run of the mill guy. It's like pretty solid. Like he's definitely
It's
going to command like a multi-year deal.
yeah, it's a two and a
And
half war a year player. Like it's
yeah,
definitely like it's not like a MVP candidate, but it's definitely an all star soft drink, right?
absolutely. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
thinking
I'm
like 3
thinking
years and
it
3
kind of
years
reminds
and
me of some of the shortstops. So probably like 6 year, 200 mil, somewhere around there.
oh
I could
man,
see that for Canada Dry.
that's huge. I
Yeah,
wasn't going to
exactly.
give him that much, but
Well,
that's where the fun comes in, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like Coke is obviously your like 12 year, $400 million player. Like this is a really good player. Everyone wants Canada Dry on their team. Like 6 year, 200 mil. It seems. Well, I guess that's about the same as Coke, just for half as long. Okay, what about like a 6 year, 120 mil?
Okay, yeah.
All right, cool. So that settles it. Canada Dry to the U.S. 6 years, 120 mil. We should probably talk about some baseball now. Take it away.
Hello and welcome to Getaway Day. This is episode 129. My name is Gautam. His name is Mason. And today we've got a great episode of podcast for you where we're going to talk mismatch of things going on. We have the winter meetings coming up. Hot stove is not boiling hot at this point, but it's definitely simmering. We're getting a steady trickle of transactions coming in. Keep us satisfied for the time being. Hopefully, get some bigger moves coming very soon, and we're going to see where this conversation takes us today.
I mean, I won't lie to you. If I'm Goldilocks, it's just right for me.
Just right.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals have gone off. They've made 3 moves here to improve the team over last year. It could be better. Like we're talking about porridge. We're not talking about a steak dinner here. But as far as porridge is concerned, it's just right.
I had some porridge this morning. Actually, it was definitely on the bad side of porridge. It was not nothing stellar, but yeah, let's actually dive right into the Cardinals situation because I know you've surely got some thoughts on that. So I'll let you take the lead, and then I'll jump in with my opinion.
Yeah, so the St. Louis Cardinals came into this offseason with a pretty glaring hole on the team, and that was their starting rotation. Coming into this offseason, we had exactly 2 guys slated for spots in the rotation, and Miles Michaelis and Steven Matz. Miles Michaelis, I think, still has 2 years, 20 mil each on his deal on an extension he signed before last season. Steven Matz has 2 more years at 11 mil apiece for 22 mil the next 2 seasons. So but those were the only 2 guys that the Cardinals truly had locked into a starting role, with maybe Matthew Liberatore, Zach Thompson potentially taking a spot. But Mo had come out and said, we are getting 2.5 to 3 starting pitchers this offseason from outside the organization, and he delivered. First, he delivered on exactly what he said he was going to do. He got 2.5 to 3 starting pitchers. So
Yeah,
first, he went out and got Lance Lynn on a 1 year 25. No, one
I think it was
year,
11 million,
1 year 13. I think.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
13
one
or
year
something. Yeah.
$13 million deal with an option for 2025, bringing Lance Lynn back to the Cardinals for the first time since 2015. Um, it's Lynn came off his worst season of his career last year by far, but immediately before that was the best season of his career by far. So at
I don't
30,
know about that.
fair, but so
21
at
was really good.
37 years old.
Yep, he'll be 37 this upcoming season.
So at 37 years old, we're not 100% sure what we're going to get out of Lance Lynn, but what we do know is that even with what he did last year, he basically comes in and replaces two of the guys that we lost from innings pitched. It improves the ERA of the rotation from last year's like abysmal 2023 and gives us a little bit more of that strikeout stuff that we haven't had. Then the next day, the Cardinals go out and sign Kyle Gibson, who last year pitched with the Orioles. Very, very similar situation. He had a disappointing season last year after having some positive seasons the last couple years before that. Not stellar. He's usually a number 4 or 5 type of guy. 11 mil for 1 year with an option for 2024. Then we had about 2 days of waiting, trying to figure out if the Cardinals.
Before we get to that, let's just talk about those first two signings.
Okay, perfect.
So, if you see those two signings, you're a Cardinals fan. You're kind of like, all right, I can definitely see why they're doing that. They clearly had a need for innings, and they basically said that as much. They said, there are 3 goals basically. They're looking for innings. They're looking for veteran presence. And never in there did they say that they got good pitchers. And that's like kind of important for that. So both these two guys are on the downside of their careers. Like they're older. Lynn's coming off a really odd season where the first half he just like was getting blown up by the home runs, and beyond that, like some of the other underlying numbers were looking kind of okay, like still striking out like 27% of the batters in the first half of the season. But the results were just not there. He had a 6.47 ERA in the first half, just absolutely dreadful. In the second half, the results got a little bit better, especially when he moved over to the Dodgers. But the underlying numbers say he got even worse in the second half. So it didn't really make sense. So, like, we don't know what we're going to get out of Lance Lynn. Like, we can kind of assume that it's going to be better than what it was. But by how much, that's a big question. The innings is huge, though, because he did still throw 184 innings this past season, which is like that's a lot of innings in 2023. And it's the most innings that he had pitched since 2019. So maybe Lance Lynn is still a horse.
And I think that's kind of where the key is here with this signing and the Kyle Gibson signing, because Kyle Gibson is kind of just carbon copy.
He's carbon copy, but he's like less good, right? He's like a worse version.
Yeah. He's
actually like, so he's almost
those
more
pieces
reliable.
of paper, those like stacks of paper where you sign it and like it is a carbon copy, but the bottom one is always the worst, like it's the least clear. It's like that.
Yeah.
Like Lance Lynn's the top sheet that you sign, and Kyle Gibson is the slightly less clear version underneath. But both of these guys combined for like 360 innings last year with about a 5.4 combined ERA or something like that. But basically, the 4 guys that they're tasked with replacing, because those 2 are tasked with replacing 4 guys, and Jack Flaherty, Dakota Hudson, Jake Woodford, and Adam Wainwright. The combined numbers for Lynn and Gibson from last year actually surpass the combined numbers of the other 4 guys, period, in every category. There's not a single category where the 4 guys combined were better than Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson combined. So
like there, you're saying, like they have a combined like 5+ ERA. So they are an improvement, but it's not drastic, right? It's like
yes, but that's kind of where the key is. Like it's not like we're terribly excited about it as fans signing. From my perspective, though, we had 4 guys that 2 of them didn't really have like starting pitcher caliber floors. Like these 2 guys, even though they kind of suck, like they're still able to start and get you through games and get you in winnable positions. That is not something we could say last year with 3 out of the 4 of those guys. Jack Flaherty, yes, we could, but we traded him mid-season, and Jack Flaherty was always kind of a is he off, is he on sort of thing. So these 2 guys, you at least know what you're going to get. And they cost a combined $25 million. Out of the 4 guys the Cardinals DFA'd, or did not tender contracts to, we basically recouped about $25 million. So we signed both of these guys, replaced 4 guys that left through some means, and did not increase the payroll. So, like, that's kind of the benefit of these two. They're not flashy. I can't even say they're good, but they've improved the team without costing essentially any money. It's girl math here, but it works.
No, yeah, I'm totally on board with that. Like, it totally makes sense that they did it, but I feel like you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Cardinals fans were not happy about those signings in general.
They're pissed.
Yeah.
I will say that I think if the order of operations were flipped and the
I was
other
gonna
guy
say
that
the
they
same
got
thing.
first or the other guy that they got happened first, I think people would be fine with it. They go, okay, we got a really good guy, and then we have to fill out a rotation.
Yep.
But when they went out and got Lynn and got Gibson, Cardinal fans were thinking, oh God, here we go again. This is going to be the exact same thing we always do, where we say we're going to go out and sign people, and then we scrape the bottom of the barrel. But Mo, for the first time ever, I think kind of lived up to his word. And that was not the plan. That was, hey, we need to get something, and then we'll make it good.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, we sit here today on November 29th, we don't have the full picture of what's going to happen. Like, there's still potential moves that can follow. It's kind of unfair to judge what they've done at this point in the
Yeah.
offseason.
And the Cardinals have also been the most aggressive team so far this offseason.
Yeah.
Like, and the
they got
third
ahead
guy
of the
that we've
market
not
by
even talked about yet, they just went and
Yep.
took one of the top starting pitchers off the market already. It's not even December. And Sonny Gray signed a 3-year, $75 million deal to come to the Cardinals. His press conference, if you're a Cardinal fan, you love that guy. He is the perfect replacement for Adam Wainwright from a personality standpoint on this team, from a leadership standpoint on this team. You just really love Sonny Gray now. He said everything right. He actually said that as far back as last offseason, his target was to get to St. Louis. So you love that from a guy. And he's a dude that carries around a baseball at all times. He's been working on his sweeper. He's improved that. He was the number 1 sweeper last year by results, the number 22 sweeper by Stuff Plus. That stat is courtesy of Eno Saris. Like, there's a lot of reasons to like Sonny Gray, even though he is also 34, turning 34, I believe, this season. So the Cardinals have added some really good quality veterans, and including the runner-up in the AL Cy Young from 2023. They've also added a ton to the average age of the starting rotation.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, just overall, let's just say that the Cardinals are done making moves, then the whole starting rotation just carries a lot of risk because all those guys could go out because they just, in general, have a higher chance of getting injured because of their age. Like Sonny Gray, he's not exactly the most durable guy either. Like, he has always battled injuries, and that's been the kind of the thing that keeps him from throwing a lot of innings in a season. Like last year, he threw 180 innings.
180,
I would
and it was
not.
his most since 2015 when he was with the A's.
Yeah, so like I would not bet any money on him repeating 180 innings this upcoming season because
Yeah.
he just
Whereas the
doesn't
other
have
two,
that
you could
track
see it.
record. Really.
Michaelis
Yeah.
pretty consistently throws almost 200 innings. So, like, I think that's where this makes it okay, is that we have enough bulk in the other guys that even though they're maybe not going to be as high quality innings, we can carry a lot more bulk innings than we could last year with somewhat sustainable starting pitching. And then you could take a
we're
risk
talking
on a
about
guy like Sonny Gray throwing only 140, 150 innings if he can get you more wins.
Sonny Gray is like just what they needed because he's actually
Good.
he's levels up above all the rest of the guys in terms of the actual pitching talent. So
Oh yeah,
they
like
kind of needed that guy.
He very clearly comes in and takes over the number 1 spot in St. Louis, moving Miles Michaelis down to number 2, which honestly I think is good for Miles too. Like, Miles is a good pitcher. He's not an amazing pitcher, but he's a good pitcher. And I think getting someone above him and kind of be like a 1-2 punch could make Miles that much better. When he's not the one that's carrying all the responsibility and all the load, I think that's going to be a huge weight off his back. So, but yeah. But the Cardinals say they're not done. They might be done in the rotation, but there are rumors, inklings, that they might be searching the trade market. We'll get to that here in a little bit, unless you want to talk about that now.
We could. Yeah, sure. Let's do that now. So, yeah, trade market is very interesting this year because there are still quality starters on the market. Just talk about Aaron Nola really quickly. He already signed, so he was probably one of the biggest starters on the market. He signed a huge 7-year deal with the Phillies to return. It's kind of crazy. Like he's already been there for 9 years, and he's going to be there for 6 more. So it's like he's going to end up being like an all-time Phillies legend, assuming his career follows the same trajectory. I think that move like made a ton of sense that they just got that one done. Like it would be weird to see Aaron Nola in any other uniform.
Yeah, and you could tell that he thought the same thing and he wanted to be there. So there were basically rumors that he had just kind of told all other teams that were talking to him, like, hey, I'm getting this done with the Phillies. Probably not worth wasting your time trying to court me. So
yeah, so Nola's off the market, Sonny Gray's off the market, so there's still good pitchers, really solid pitchers like Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Who are the other big starters
Imananga.
remaining? Imanaga.
Um, I think as far as like the top tier guys, those were it. Like Shohei,
Yeah,
but
Shohei, but he
that's a
doesn't count
different
as a pitcher
category.
for this year. Yeah.
Um, but
So
but then
beyond
then you
that,
get to like your
we
next
seem.
tier, like your Jack Flaherty's and guys like that.
I feel like Jack Flaherty's like the bottom barrel at this point. There's other guys like there's your Stromans and your I don't know. I can't think of anybody right now, but this year we seem to have a lot of big names that are being floated in trade talks. Maybe this happens every year and I'm just forgetting, but it feels like there's very real possibilities of some of these starting pitchers getting moved this offseason. I'm talking about Tyler Glasnow, Dylan Cease, Shane Bieber, Corbin Burns. Those are all like ones or twos in basically any rotation. And I don't know, like which one of these seems like it's most likely to happen of the 4 that I just named?
So I think of it as 2 and 2. So Glasnow and Cease seem the most obvious or most likely to happen for 2 different reasons. Bieber and Burns could happen. I think it would require a decent amount of return, more so for Burns than Bieber, just given recent performance. But let's start with Glasnow and Cease. So Tyler Glasnow, I would still tab him as the number 1 in Tampa. Is making $25 million this year. Tampa is basically saying that they're going to cut payroll. And historically, that means Tampa gets rid of the highest paid guy on the team, being Tyler Glasnow, because the other highest paid guy is not exactly going to be playing or doing anyone any favors. So Glasnow is the one that's got to go. He also seems like the most easily replaceable guy that they have, given the fact that he's only pitched 120 innings this past season, which was his career high. He's amazing, but he can't stay on the field. And so at $25 million a year, it seems obvious they'd try and move him and get a couple of younger pieces, maybe a major league outfielder, some young pitchers that they can develop. So Glasnow seems like maybe the most sure to go. I think he's also going to be the easiest to get, given the fact that he doesn't really have great injury history, doesn't really pitch deep into seasons. What are your thoughts there on Glasnow?
I guess the from a like a thinking about it like more positively, like putting Glasnow in a more positive light. He had his career high in innings pitched coming off Tommy John surgery. So maybe that's like the springboard into him being more durable now that the Tommy John is behind him. So he probably won't like injure his elbow again, immediately. He's a
Yeah,
little bit in that honeymoon phase.
and when he's on
And
the field, he's phenomenal.
yeah, second half of the season, he was just lights out. Took him a little while to get really going, but then he showed the pitcher that he's shown that he could be in the past, where he's got one of the highest strikeout rates in the league. Pretty good control, especially for being so tall and gangly.
He has a fun
Yeah,
nickname. That's always a plus. Baby
what's
Giraffe.
the what's yeah, very fun. Yeah, that would definitely play well in a bigger market, I think.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, and the good thing is that you don't really have to commit to him at this point. Like he's literally only got 1 year on the contract, so that makes him even more attractive. Because maybe you got concerns about locking him up for a long term contract. I would get that, but if you're trying to like go for it, you're trying to win this upcoming season. You go trade for Glass now. You trade some prospects. You trade some young pieces. Um, this guy could be an absolute difference maker in a playoff rotation.
Oh, 100%. And he's the guy that I think a lot of Cardinal fans kind of want the Cardinals to go out and try and get to be that other move that they said that they might make. And go get a guy like Tyler Glasnow because, yeah, he doesn't really have the longevity in the past, but on a 1 year kind of prove it, can you pitch 120 innings or more again at a high level, can help bolster this rotation that Mo has just built. And if for some reason he or Sonny Gray get hurt, we have the bulk innings there in Lynn, in Gibson, in Michaelis, in Matz. Like, so it kind of, now that there's a rotation, it feels like a good move that they could make to go and improve it. So that's kind of the other thing that Cardinals fans are all after. The other guy that I think a lot of teams are looking at, and I think there's rumors that there's like 8 or 9 different teams that have all called about him, is Dylan Cease. The
This
White
one feels
Sox,
like he's got to get moved, right?
he's got to. Like,
Yeah.
I feel really bad saying this because I feel bad for all of the fans of the White Sox, but this team is going nowhere. Until Jerry is gone, there is not any hope for this franchise. Dylan Cease can actually get a big return to help build for the future, given the current or the present is not really looking all that great. He's got, what, 2 more years left?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so 2 more years of a top arm in the game. When Dylan Cease is on, he is lights out. He's kind of exactly like Tyler Glasnow, but with longevity. I would say his consistency isn't always there. I think last year he kind of went through a couple peaks and valleys, and everyone does, but like he's got some really good wipeout stuff. And Dylan Cease is he's really, really fun to watch. So,
Yeah, Cease is interesting because it's like he's coming off a really bad season. So if you're the White Sox, do you sell low? You're almost selling at a low point here because he's coming off a rough year, or do you wait into the season, see if he shows some of the good stuff and try to trade him then?
I feel
But
like
like
with
I
some of the
agree,
I feel
the
like with
White
some
Sox
of the
are absolutely
teams,
going nowhere.
yeah, I feel like with some of the teams that are looking for pitching right now, teams that are maybe not willing to go out and spend the money for a Blake Snell or a Yoshinobu Yamamoto, his track record is probably good enough to say, yeah, let's go out and make this deal for Cease because he's probably going to be better than last year. And when I think of that, I'm thinking teams like the Reds are going to be, I don't know that they're going to actually do it, but I think the Reds are going to be calling. They're going to be trying to put together a package. And with guys like Noelvi Marte and a couple other um, like high prospects that they have from some of the other trades they've made, sending out Luis Castillo, they could get it done if they really want to. And that could help bolster this rotation for a young club like Cincinnati. So I do think there's teams like that that would be very willing to spend the capital it takes to get Cease now, even though his trade value, ultimately is probably lower. I think the way that the market is right now, it's actually just fine.
Yeah. And then we'll just touch on those other two guys that we mentioned, Bieber and Burns. So I think everyone is making an assumption that the Brewers are selling here, and it could be true. But the thing that might make it interesting is the recent report that Jackson Churio is close to signing a long-term deal with the Brewers without ever having played a game for the Milwaukee Brewers. Um,
Yeah. And
and
for those of you that
he's
are
a Uber
unaware,
prospect.
yeah,
Yeah,
for those of
the
you that
guy
are
is
unaware, Jackson Churio is the number 2 prospect in baseball. Dude has a lot of power for being a young kid. He looks like he's going to be the real deal. Granted, still a prospect, could very well go the Scott Kingery route, who signed a contract
yeah.
before playing in the majors.
There's like 5 guys that have ever done it, and 3 of them were kind of busts. There was Scott Kingery, John Singleton, and Evan White. Those were the guys that like did not really pan out. They did not sign like massive contracts. They signed more like reasonable, uh, just contracts that would buy out their pre-arb and arb years, kind of. Guy like Luis Robert is maybe the guy that you can compare Churio to, because I think most people had a pretty good idea that Luis Robert was going to be a star player, and that's kind of
Yeah.
what we're looking at with Churio. And the Brewers want to do it so they can actually like keep one of their star players, because they are not a team that's going to like go out and spend and bring in massive free agent signings.
For as cheap as the Brewers are, they're very smart. They always have been.
Yes.
Like, this is not a team that's just going to go and offload Corbin Burns just to offload him. They have to get the right return in order to do it. Otherwise, they're going to keep him, and maybe they can re-sign him. Probably not with the money that he's going to command. But to them, there is more value with him being there and maybe making the postseason than just offloading him for no reason. And
Like, do you see the Brewers as like a team that's gonna actually tank? Like, I don't see it.
no,
Maybe it could happen, but I don't. They don't seem like a team that wants to ever tank. They always want to be in the competition for that
yeah,
division, and it's
yeah,
very attainable. Like,
and
it
this
should
is a
be.
team that could still very well do it. I mean, if they keep Burns, you still have one of the top pitchers in the game. You have a Christian Yelich who has rebounded a bit from his down seasons here. You have William Contreras, who is a very good up and coming catcher. You have guys like some some of these young
Willie
guys like Garrett
Adames.
Mitchell, Joey Weimer, who have some promise there. Like you have Devin Williams and the other guy in the bullpen. The one
Oh,
was really good last year.
um, I
There's
can't remember
always a
his name
number
right
2
now.
to
Yeah,
their dominant closer. This is a team that could make noise this year. Like
yeah.
all they have to do is hold steady, and they'll at least be in the race for the postseason. If they make a couple additions, they could potentially take the division. Like they're not going to tank. They're smarter than that. Like I don't think they're
Maybe it's like
necessarily.
a midseason trade for Burns, actually, kind of like they did with Hader a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, if they get rid of him, it's going to be at the deadline because they're out of it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Um, let's talk about some other guys here. So, had some other starting pitching signings here. So, Kenta Maeda, who is also in the Twins rotation with Sonny Gray last year, came off his Tommy John surgery in 2022, and he came back pretty strong after some initial struggles and injury. He came back and he looked like Kenta Maeda. So, struck out a lot of batters. Generally, was very effective, but doesn't give you a whole lot of bulk or innings really. And that's kind of like a very like consistent thing that we always talk about. Like, these guys are very talented, but they're not like putting up big innings totals, and that's okay. I think the Tigers just need someone like to fill out their rotation at this point because
The
they have a
Tigers just
lot
need
of
some talent. Let's be real.
they need talent. Yeah, exactly. So maybe it's not like the best idea because he's not probably gonna like I don't know, like it's fine. Like it's a fine signing.
Yeah, so now what? 40% of the starting rotation for the Twins is gone now.
Yeah, and that's a huge issue for the Twins because they still have three guys at the top that are really good in Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, and who's my third guy I'm missing? Bailey Ober.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so it'll be
they've got
interesting
to
to
fill
see
those
how they
spots.
fill out the rest of it. But
Yep.
but like their division is another one of those that like even without Maeda and Sonny Gray, they're still going to be vying for the top of this division because like the White Sox we've said are kind of in sell off mode. I mean they traded Aaron Bummer um, for they actually got five guys in return for Aaron Bummer from the Braves. They got who was it? It was Nicky Lopez.
Yep.
Um,
Nicky Lopez, Braden Shoemake, who's a prospect that's kind of stalled out at the high levels of the minors. They got Mike Soroka, who's really talented, but he hasn't been good in 5 years because he's been so hurt.
yeah, came off Tommy
And
John and
then
then didn't really pitch very well last year.
it was
So,
he tore his Achilles twice. Poor guy.
oh yeah, that's what it was. His Achilles. But yeah, so
And yeah, so like I get that move for the White Sox perspective. You don't need a 30-year-old relief pitcher when you're trying to build some talent base. Like if
and and
if
they got
Nicky
some and they got some guys
so like
back that could actually provide some quality MLB innings. Like Soroka, if he can get healthy and confident in himself, he's a really good pitcher. I think he could actually be a positive for this team. He's not going to be what Dylan Cease is, but like he could be a solid piece of a rotation again. He just kind of needs a shot to figure it back out at the majors. They're going to have a lot of innings that they need to get through, so it seems like the perfect fit. Nicky Lopez is a really like solid middle infielder. This is a team that they just got rid of Tim Anderson.
yeah.
They
So
haven't really had a second baseman in the last, I don't know, 25 years. Like they need some middle infielders. So this seems like a really good trade from the White Sox standpoint if you're just trying to get through a season and be able to build for the future.
yeah,
Um,
I'm thinking about the trade like this. Basically, like you know what Nicky Lopez is. He's like basically your bench infielder. He might start for the White Sox because they're so bad. He's going to give you good defense. He's probably going to steal a bunch of bases. Might hit for like a good average. You know, he's going to be Nicky Lopez,
yep.
and he's almost like equivalent to like a relief pitcher, in my opinion. And then the other four guys in the trade, you just have to like hit on one of them. You don't even have to like they don't all have to pan out. You just have to have one guy that does something and then you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and he doesn't even have to be like a superstar player like at this point. Like you have Nicky
Yeah.
Lopez who seems like a pretty good like replacement for Aaron Bummer just with a bat
Yeah.
instead of a um, pitch repertoire. But so now you've got Braden Shoemake, who maybe you could turn into a second baseman. Maybe you could stick him back at shortstop and he takes off. Who knows? Maybe you get something out of Soroka. Maybe you turn Soroka into a relief pitcher. And I forget who the other two guys were.
I think there was another pitch. Oh, it was it Jared Schuster in this trade? So another like starting pitching prospect?
Yeah, Smith Schuster.
No, no, no.
No, that's
Jared
Smith
Schuster.
Shawver, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not him.
Jared Schuster.
They have too many guys with similar names. I don't like it. I'm glad they
Yeah.
traded one to the White Sox. That's going to make it easier whenever I try and talk about the Braves later.
Yeah, let's talk about the Braves. So they're like
Well,
I
I
like to
got one
trade for
more guy
them
on the White
too.
Sox I want to talk about real quick before we move on from them.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one other guy that the White Sox went out and got is they actually signed Paul DeYoung to a 1 year or $1.75 million deal with a $250 million incentives based on plate appearances. He gets 100 million or 100,000. Sorry, if
You said
he
$250 million incentive. That would be impressive.
$250,000. Sorry, $250,000 incentives. $100,000 if he has 400 plate appearances on the season. Another $150,000 if he reaches 500 plate appearances. This is a really, really good prove it deal, in my opinion, because they don't have Tim Anderson anymore. They need someone at shortstop. Paul DeYoung plays a really, really good defensive shortstop. He hasn't really had a chance to come out and reprove himself at the major league level. This is a team that has nothing to lose. So for $1.7 million to get potentially a full season out of a former All-Star shortstop, like if he can find something again, like you have really good trade bait there at the trade deadline if he figures it out, because he wasn't going to get another shot with the Cardinals, which is why he's gone. So I like that move a lot, and he's a great guy. White Sox fans are going to love him, and if he does get traded midseason, they're going to be mad. All right, now we can talk about the Braves.
Yeah, so the Brave, I like the move, that trade from the Braves side too, because they're a team that's obviously in a different spot as the White Sox, but they're just trying to put the finishing touches on things. And they've spent the entire offseason to this point basically making moves for their bullpen. So they signed Joe Jimenez to an extension. They signed, was it Pierce Johnson, I think, a few weeks ago.
I think so.
They traded for Aaron Bummer. They're literally trying to like optimize every single roster spot, because there's so much stuff that's like just set in stone with this team, with all their young, talented offensive players being locked into their roles for years and years to come. They just kind of have to work around the edges of the roster and do what they can. I think they need a starting pitcher. Think like they've obviously got Strider and they've got Fried, but beyond those two guys, you got like Charlie Morton, who's 41, and then you've got unproven guys.
Yeah, and Dylan Dodd, AJ Smith-Shawver. There's one other, I think.
Yeah,
Is Colby Allard back? Do they have him again?
I don't know, maybe. Oh, the guy we're forgetting is Bryce Elder.
Yes, that's it. Bryce Elder.
But he's still not anything, like he's not an ace pitcher or anything, so.
Yeah, but the Braves have been out there, and they've been in a lot of rumors for a lot of starting pitchers. I think they were trying to get Nola for a while, try and get him away from the Phillies. They were talking with Sonny Gray, trying to get him. They've been in talks with the White Sox on trying to get Dylan Cease. I think there's been some rumors on them with Glasnow, even though I think he's not really the best fit for them, just from the standpoint that they kind of seem to want guys that are going to be on the field a bit more, because they've dealt with the injury bug a lot recently, and I think they're kind of over it. So it kind of feels like they're going to go or try and get someone who's got a little bit more longevity under their belt than a Glasnow. But they've been in rumors with like every starting pitcher. We'll see if AA can actually like close the deal on one of them. But if he can, I would be willing to put my name on this is probably the best on paper team that I've ever seen.
Wow, better than the 2022 Dodgers?
I think so. Just it's the more on paper, because your rotation is pretty well stacked. You've got like your 4 and 5 guys. Maybe you're not 100% certain what you're going to get out of them, but like even then, their 4 and 5 guys are all really good. They've shown that they can be good. Their bullpen on paper is stacked. They've got probably the best young lineup who it performed as the best offense in the Major League Baseball last year. It can do it again and again and again. They've got speed. They've got defense. Like, I love this Braves team. If they go out and get one more, like, 1 or 2 in like most teams' rotations starter, I think this is the best on paper team that I have ever seen.
Right. That's your hot take of the day.
It's my hot take. The 22 Dodgers were phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. Like, easily number 2, but I think this beats it out.
All right. Okay, now I think it's time for me. I'll do a quick one here before I talk about the Reds and get heated here. But Luis Severino signed with the Mets. He's kind of like in a different category of starting pitcher. He signed a 1-year, $13 million deal with the Mets. This guy has way more upside than like Lance Lynn or Kyle Gibson. Like he's a guy that has shown his like Cy Young upside in the last couple of years. And he could easily get back to that because he's not old. He's like 30 years old. So I love the move from the Mets perspective because they could really get some big value out of Severino this year, and they need talent. Like the Mets do not have much of a rotation. When they traded Scherzer and Verlander, they were left with some gaping holes, and I don't even know who's filling out the rest of that rotation. It's not going to be pretty, but they need talent.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't know
They
who's
got
in that
Jose
rotation
Quintana.
either, but like they were kind of in the same position as the Cardinals, where they needed to just fill spots first, and then they need to get talent. But
They
like you
kind of
can't.
did both, though, right? They got a
They did.
starter. They got a guy with like some more. I don't know. He's more exciting to me than a guy like Kyle Gibson, obviously.
Agreed. I think his downside. His downside's kind of the same. Maybe his is more
Yeah,
injury risk on his
yeah.
downside. But and that's kind of why the Cardinals went with the guys that they did. Is the guys that they went with don't really get hurt. Like Severino throws at higher velocity than both Lynn and Gibson probably combined. I think like Severino could probably throw 95. The other guys are throwing 40. Like
Lance Lynn still throws hard, kind of.
fair enough, but hard for Lance Lynn is like 94 though at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not
but like
bad.
Severino can throw up 97, 98 if he tries.
Yeah, he averaged 96.5 this year, and so his velocity was up
Yeah,
from where it's been
and
the last couple of years.
so like that's
He
kind
was
of where like the higher velocity he's putting more stress on his arm. We've seen him get hurt in the past. He has a lot higher upside. His downside is that he's not on the field. The downside for Lynn and Gibson is that they're going to give up the most hits in the majors and the most home runs in the majors.
I still argue that those guys have the same downside because they're older. Like we can't just bank on them throwing 180 again.
True, that's true.
So it kind of balances out. But yeah, it's an interesting like question about what your team philosophy is and how you like target these guys in free agency. Because I feel like the Cardinals just acted like the Cardinals. Like they're very predictable in what they do. They go after the perceived reliable type guys. They don't really go for upside. They don't go for strikeout pitchers in general, even though they said that they were trying to.
They try
didn't really.
They try and get guys that have a low standard deviation. Whereas like the Mets are a little bit more not risk averse, risk taking, I guess. Where they're willing to go out and give some more money for a guy who maybe it's going to pan out, maybe it's not. The Cardinals don't want to risk losing money, so they don't risk the upside either. So, yeah, that's just kind of like how those teams typically act. But with the Mets, like they need to be a little bit more aggressive on getting some of these like second tier starters right now that are still available on the market, while also courting Yamamoto, while also courting Shohei, even though they don't really have a shot at Shohei. Like, I think this is a team that is set on getting one of those guys, and they're kind of forgetting that there's more rotation spots that they have to fill.
Yeah, I should have checked, but can you name some? Let's play a game. Can you name some Mets starting pitchers?
Seth Lugo's gone now, so not him. Tyler Miguel?
Yeah, he's slated for the rotation. They've got one guy that you should know. He's a big name, and he had a great season. So he's locked and loaded for. Yep.
Luis Severino.
Luis Severino, Tyler McGill, and Jose Quintana, and Joey Lucchesi.
Joey Lucchese's there?
Yeah, he
Huh.
pitched there last year.
I forgot about that. That's not a guy that I really think about, to be honest.
Yeah, he missed a year. So, anyways, now I think it's time to talk about the Reds and their big signing of the offseason today, Mr. Emilio Pagan, their highest paid player. He signed a 2-year, $16 million deal to be the Red setup man, which is just okay. I said earlier in that episode, we shouldn't jump to conclusions about, what a team does today on November 29th, but I'm going to jump to conclusions here and say this move doesn't make any sense. Why are they doing this? Like, if their payroll is limited like I expect it's going to be, why are they spending 8 million of it on a really mid-tier, almost like I could argue he's bad, like a bad reliever in Emilio Pagan? Like, this move makes no sense to me.
I mean, I don't think it's going to take a whole lot of arguing. Like, he's coming off a career best season by results, but he's doing it with the lowest BABIP of his career
And
over
the
like
home
a
run rate,
significant span.
how's that
221
home run?
BABIP. He struck out the least guys of his career. He pitched the most innings, but and he still had a 3 ERA as a reliever. Like, he's really not
What's
good.
that home run rate? I know it's like really low. It's like lower than it's ever been.
0.65.
Yeah, so
Which
0.65.
his career low prior to that was 2017 at 1.25, and then his next best season was 1.54.
Yeah, so he has a terrible home run problem. He had one amazing season. We'll give him the credit. Like, okay, maybe he did something right this season, but
He increased his velocity to the highest it's ever been.
he's going to the most home run friendly park in Major League Baseball. Coming off his best season. Like, if that's not like asking for regression, I don't know what is. Like, it's
Yeah.
not going to go well.
No, it's not.
So this Reds team's like talked about in trades for Tyler Glass now. Like, I guess that makes sense. Like, they're another team that has desperate need for starting pitching. Like, I
Okay.
get that Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, they're very talented, exciting players, but they haven't proven it yet.
Yeah. Okay. The most Reds thing ever. They're going to take Emilio Pagan and try and turn him into a starter.
That would be funny.
It kind of like I don't know what they're doing. They have
I
a
don't either.
really, really good young core. They need to bolster it, not sign Emilio Pagan for $8 million. Like, yeah, their bullpen sucked last year, but so did their starting pitching. Outside of oh shoot, who was the
Andrew Abbott for a
Andrew
little
Abbott? There
bit.
we go. He
Yeah.
absolutely took off last year, but outside of that, it was kind of just meh.
Yeah, it was very meh. And I don't know, like, I'm a little like skeptical that even like Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo are gonna ever really take the next step and be those like elite pitchers that they were supposed to be. I feel like they're not getting ready to be.
I really think Lodolo could if he weren't pitching a Great American Ballpark, because that actually does
Oh yeah, it's
affect
huge.
him quite a bit.
It affects them both. Like, they're getting crushed by home runs, and
Yeah.
it's tough. It's a very, very tough place to pitch.
Yeah. So Emilio Pagan.
Milo Pagan, let's go. All right, we
What
got a
about the
few
former
more
Red?
former Reds.
Eugenio Suarez.
Yes.
How do
So
you
Eugenio
take
Suarez.
how do you take a World Series team, not a World Series champion, a World Series runner-up team, with an aging third baseman who is definitely way past his prime, but should probably be in Hall of Fame discussions later. How do you make that team better, Gowie?
Well, you go out and you get Eugenio Suarez.
For Sebi Zavala and Carlos Vargas.
Yeah, so to be honest, like this is like a kind of a salary dump trade because the Mariners like basically got nothing. They got like a reliever and a backup catcher for Suarez.
Yeah.
Suarez is he had a weird season last year. He didn't really hit for as much power as he usually does, and maybe he's just getting old. Like we don't know. He also played in that ballpark that probably didn't help him.
I mean, he still hit 30 homers last year, didn't he?
Did he? I thought it was like 22.
Maybe it was the 4 seasons before that he hit 30.
Yeah,
Because
like
he had
he's
a
been a consistent
232.
power guy.
Yeah, he had a 232, 323, 391 with a 101 OPS plus.
Yeah, that's incredibly alarming when you tell me that Eugenio Suarez's slugging percentage was under 400. That freaks me out. That doesn't like give me any hope, I guess. Like the only hope is that he has done it so consistently in the past, had the power. So maybe he just bounces back and he'll be fine or whatever. But I don't know. This is not a major move for me.
Yeah,
I
and he's
think
going to a
Diamondbacks
place
fans
that it's going to be hard to hit home runs still. Like,
yeah, it's a bad park for homers.
yeah, like so is Seattle, so you're probably going to get
Yeah,
roughly the same. Like, you're not really going to a worse park, you're just going to the same park. The
right.
alleys are a hell of a lot bigger in Arizona. But
Yep. I guess like with Arizona, I'm I was secretly kind of hoping that they would make some big moves here, and maybe they still do. But the danger that they face is that they'll say, you know, we're a World Series, we made the World Series, like we're good. But I don't feel like this roster is even close to being one of the like most talented in the entire league or anything. Like they have a lot of work to
no.
do. They've got promise, but
They
they're
they need to
deficient.
be they need to be trading for Dylan Cease.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
honestly, like they have the ability to do it. They have plenty of really, really high level prospects that could be intriguing to the White Sox without giving up Drew Jones. Or maybe Jordan Lawler's you're untouchable. Like you could get that deal done without giving up those guys. Like I think you could. And this is a team that very much needs someone to come in. And Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen have been great for this team. But after that, as we went through the postseason and we kept talking about, they don't have anybody. They had Brandon Pfaadt, and then they had a bullpen game.
yeah.
Brandon Pfaadt could be a really, really good pitcher moving forward. Like he started showing, especially in the postseason, how good he could be. But they need more, especially if they're going to make it back to the World Series and actually win it. So I think
Yeah.
that's a team that needs to be in on Dylan Cease.
Yeah, it's like a very consistent theme here that we're finding all these teams that have like two good starters, and then it's like a huge drop off from there. Or some
Yeah,
teams only have one good starter.
the Giants have 2 starters, period, and then they go to like 3 bullpen games, and they're basically set on getting either Shohei or Yamamoto, and that seems like the only thing that they're interested in doing,
Let's
which
go there.
concerns
Actually,
me.
that's a good one. So the Giants feel like the team that's like under the most stress right now because they have not landed their superstar. Their fans are like very upset about stuff because I don't know, like the Giants are not. It's not fun to be a Giants fan right now at all, and they have so many needs. It's not, yeah, like you're saying, it's not just a star that they're missing. It's like the star plus two starters plus some hitters and like I don't know. This roster seems like it's far away from
So,
being elite.
so hear me out. I know that Farhan is basically saying that he's going to get either Otani or Yamamoto, and he doesn't care. That's the guys he's going after. But if it were you, wouldn't getting like Blake Snell and then like some of like Shota Imanaga, Yuki Matsui, Jung-Hoo Lee, like any of these guys that are getting posted that are really, really, really like high profile guys from the NPB and the KBO, and Imanaga and Jung-Hoo Lee for sure, or like especially, like these are guys that could like help grow that Asian market that they're trying to grow over in San Francisco, while also potentially being the superstars that they're looking for, and bring in a guy like Blake Snell, all for probably the same amount of money. And you've now filled 3 glaring holes on your team. Doesn't that seem like a better use of your time to maximize everything? Like, I realize that it's not Aaron Judge, it's not Shohei, and that's kind of what fans are wanting. But Jung-Hoo Lee, Shota Imanaga, like these, Blake Snell, these are guys that kind of very easily could be superstars too. They're just not the ones everyone's talking about right now. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if those guys are actual superstars though. They
yeah,
could be, but
they
they're
could
not.
be. But my point is more so that like if they don't close on Shohei or Yamamoto, and then basically all these other guys start signing because they've been waiting for a yes or no from Shohei and Yamamoto, aren't they kind of screwing themselves? Because, like, especially with
Yeah.
Jung-Hoo Lee, his posting window is going to be only 30 days because he's over in the KBO. And so, like, his posting could be done before Yamamoto's even ends, even though Yamamoto's has already started. So, like, if you wait for Yamamoto, maybe you've missed out on him. Like, it just. I feel like at
No, I
some point,
mean,
Farhan's going to have to start thinking 2-pronged. He's thinking 1 prong right now, and he's got to go 2.
well, you're making that assumption that he's not talking with the other free agents.
Yes, I'm very much making that assumption, but it's because that's really the only thing that they've like said is like we're getting one of these 2 guys, and then they haven't like seemed to have addressed anything else even publicly as far as like what are the
But
holes on the team.
did he actually say that? I think that's just like a report. I
I
don't
thought he
know
did.
like there. Like, yeah, I mean, you would hope that someone wouldn't be so centered on like doing one specific thing because that's a strategy that's probably not going to pay off. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, but they need that star too. Like,
they do.
it makes sense to go after a guy like that. Every
It does.
team could
Yeah.
use it. So
But they're basically like the one team that there's not really even been any rumors about, which is the part that concerns me.
I feel
It's
like there
like,
have been, right? They've been linked to like Cody Bellinger and Blake Snell. I think.
have they been linked to Snow?
I think so.
Well, I knew the Bellinger part, but him, that's going to be like 2 months down the road anyway for Bellinger. So, whatever. We'll cross that bridge
But
when we
yeah,
get to it.
so I guess we'll finish up here with some fun questions. Do you think Shohei's going to sign next week at the winter meetings?
I want to say no, but he's already been like having his meetings. Like there were pictures of him going into Oracle Park and a couple other places. So
For
like
work?
yeah.
Oh,
So like he's
didn't
been
realize
making
that.
the rounds, talking to all the clubs. It could happen. Like I know he said he
Yeah.
wanted to get it done early.
Has he said anything? Like the guy hasn't spoken in 2 months, three
I thought
months.
his I thought his agent said that he was
His
looking
agent
to.
is very unreliable, in my opinion. Like
Who is his
we
agent?
don't know what I don't know some Balelo guy. I don't know what his name is, but anyways, this guy like just speaks for Shohei. Shohei doesn't speak, which is he can do that, but we
Pretty
don't
standard.
know like anything about what he really wants. I mean, he signed with the Angels. Like we have no clue what he was thinking.
That's true.
Or what he values, really.
The only thing that we know is there are some teams who have started taking themselves out of like supposedly the Rangers
I
have
don't
just
believe it.
given up.
Yeah.
Like
Those are not
so,
real. Like I saw that one too. I don't believe that guy, but
no.
anyways.
I don't know. Everything's all cryptic, and I don't like it. It's confusing. I want there to be more transparency in negotiations for free agents. Let me in the
So
room,
hopefully
darn
we
it.
can get some actual big signings in the coming days. Winter meeting starting on Sunday in Nashville.
I don't think we're getting a big signing. I think we're getting a big trade.
Big trade.
I think Soto's getting traded at the winter meetings.
Soto. To the Yankees or another team?
I don't know. Like I feel like this is a Hal thing where Hal's like, we're doing this. Because he was, for the first time ever after a season, Hal Steinbrenner was pissed at the season, which was kind of a pleasant surprise. Like, he's never actually come out and been that vocal about his displeasure. And then Brian Cashman did his thing and said, yeah, we were a good team. We just got kind of screwed by luck or whatever the hell. But I feel like Hal might be saying, hey, let's get this thing done. There's rumors that the Padres and the Yankees are naming names in discussions now. And some of the names that the Padres are asking for are guys like Volpe or Dominguez or some of these guys. And
that's ridiculous. For 1 year of Soto, you're not trading 5 years of Anthony Volpe. No chance.
True. But what about like a Michael King?
Okay, yeah, sure.
All right, because that's another name that they've supposedly brought up. There's one other young pitcher. I don't remember who it was. It wasn't Clark Schmidt. Needed someone better than him.
Yeah.
But
we talked about this, I think, last time, that these 1 year guys are not going to bring back the major returns like Soto did the first time when he had multiple years.
I think he could get one really good piece, but he's not going to get. He's not going to get the four guys. That he got the Nats. So, like, I could see it being like a Oswald Peraza. I could see going back. Like,
sure.
I don't know. We'll see. But I kind of feel like there's going to be a mystery team that comes out of nowhere.
For one of these trades, or maybe, that'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah. Watch it be the Rays.
The Rays do it. They always have the prospects to be able to make a trade like that.
Exactly. They're going to have to somehow get the Padres to keep the money for this year. I don't know how they're going to do that, but oh well.
Okay, yeah, so that's what's going on the hot stove as we talked to you right before winter meetings, and looking forward to a good week. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Go get you some Canada Dry. It is now the official beverage of the United States, as we have paid it a 6-year, $120 million deal in free agency to come and play for us.
Definitely not an overpay.
No, not an overpay. Market rate, Gotham.
Market rate, yes.
Market rate. All right, cool.
With that, thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you next week. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.